Peace and Allah you Akbar. Welcome back to another episode of the Jihad Live Experience. This is the place where the problem solvers become the teachers, where we bring it sexy back to the everyday hardworking man and woman who impact your life within close proximity, bringing value back to non-white people in the concept called America as we rise above this madness which is called Black culture. So look, as I has mentally mentioned before, I'm gonna start taking the show in a different direction. Typically, what I meant to say a few episodes ago is there was always a reason why I said I don't really get involved in the love and marriage and relationship type of thing because it really causes a lot of confusion. It causes a lot of chaos. And I'm still getting calls, still getting text messages about the video from the other day. So I'm letting you know tonight on the Jihad Live Experience. I will no longer be discussing relationship issues. I will no longer be talking about love and marriage. Now I may talk about family things and things dealing with social justice because that's just right up my alley. For every day I work to produce justice in my own rank within my own circumference. But I got to move past that conversation. And tonight I have a guest on that will be the first, as I would say, pioneering guest to take the show into a different direction because I always want to have constructive results. Whenever you watch any episode that comes on with the Jihad Live Experience, I want to feel like that you had an experience. I want you to feel like you've learned something. I want you to feel more empowered. I want you to feel more encouraged. Now, everything that I present on this show, all the information and the material, sometimes it's going to be uncomfortable. Sometimes it's going to be a truth you don't want to hear. And then who's to say what's the truth, to be honest with you, really? So, but like I always do on every show, man, I always want to highlight a book. I tell people all the time I'm an avid book reader. I've read a lot of books, and sometimes I may read a book once or twice just to refresh myself. But tonight, since everybody understands that I am an advocate, a vanguard, a supporter, and I live by the compensatory code with Nearly Fuller Jr., not only did he write a book, but he also wrote a word guide. This is the United Independent Compensatory Code Concept Word Guide. All right. Words are powerful, and the system is held together by words. Words can be used to coerce people, to persuade people, to inspire people. Words can be used to hurt people. Words can be used to reveal something to people. So words that you use are very critical and it's very important. But this book right here is pretty much the manuscript for words that you should or shouldn't use, and as far as on a compensatory level and being constructive. So I suggest that people pick that up, especially those who read the code and understand the works, those who are familiar with the works of Dr. Francis Cress Welsing and the ISIS papers. I find a lot of words in that in this word guide very useful, and there are words I simply just don't use no more. And there are words that I do use, but I use them in the proper context, around the right, and depending on the environment and depending on the situation. So this word guide is very powerful. So I suggest you all go pick that up. And by the way, for those who have been asking about the works of Dr. Neely Fuller, you can go pick up all his works on, I think it's producejustice.com. And you can find all his lectures. You can find his books, his writings. If you go to producejustice.com, I actually should have put that up as a link. So tonight, I'm going to be talking to a brother by the name of Toshi out of my hometown of St. Louis, Missouri. A friend of mine contacted me about having a guest on this show. And by the way, also, speaking of which, let me put the email up there or whatever, because for anybody that has any questions, you want to see certain content discussed on the show, if you would like to be a guest yourself, if you want to do one-on-ones for any booking engagements or whatever that may be, here's the email, jihadlivetv.net@gmail.com. Well, she contacted me. She told me about a very interesting brother. He was an artist, and that she told me that this brother creates things from paper. From paper. And so when I first thought about it, how does a person create something from paper? Paper is such a feeble, thin substance, material that you could just easily grab and just rip and tear apart. But then I actually talked to this brother who goes by the name of Toshi. He sent me a couple of his video links, and I was just amazed at his artwork. I haven't really heard too much about people who created art from paper. I do know that people are doing different things when it comes to the world of art, but creating figurines, aircrafts, or replicas or relics from movies that we're familiar with, our favorite superheroes. I just found it to be absolutely amazing. Here, if you don't believe me, just take a look for yourself.
My name is Toshi, and this is Paper in Motion on the Jihad Live podcast.
That was just a small example of what this brother does. And I don't know about you, but I found it so very fascinating. I was very intrigued by the figures. I was very intrigued by the crafts that he makes. And he actually can make these things motorized, put lights on them, and other different specs. But you know what? Let's really get into our guest tonight, man. Let me go ahead and bring our good brother in the room tonight, brother Tosi. How you doing, man?
All right, how are you?
I'm still learning, man. It's good to have you on the show tonight, man.
Oh, it's pleasure. It's my pleasure, and it's a pleasure that you're having me.
And man, I'm so glad to have you on, man. I'm so glad that Sheena presented you to me, man. And I see a lot of your work in the background there, man. And all the images in the back behind you, the figurines, they're all made of paper.
Yeah, completely.
How long does it take you to craft, man, like an individual project?
About a month.
A month?
Yeah, for one.
Wow. So what actually really kind of got you started, man, with getting into this type of art?
Well, when I was younger, parents got divorced, and uh, I was shipped from house to house more or less,
Mm,
and around Christmas time or whenever, there wasn't a lot of money for for gifts and toys and stuff like that. So I just started to make my own. Especially when I saw stuff on cartoons, I just plant myself down in front of the cartoon and just make what I saw.
wow. That's awesome, man. That is really awesome. I've always said, man, a lot of people consider people who are gifted that can sing, people who can play ball, things of that nature. But I've always said that artists and people who can create things from the raw intelligence of their mind, I think they are the most gifted because it's just not an everyday gift that a person has. So, man, if you don't mind, let's tell the people, man, who is Toshi?
Well, I'm an artist first, I think, because I think I've earned that. I've been working on this since I was 8. Uh, it's most of everything that I do during, because I go to work, and of course, like other people unwind different ways, but I uh I tend to gravitate towards doing my art because it's peaceful, and like you said, just the process of creation, it makes me feel closer to my creator. That I think that's what it kind of, I can feel God's essence more or less when I do it.
You know what? I can actually, I can feel that. I resonate with that. I've never ever heard nobody even put it to like that before. So in sort of a way, would you say it's like a spiritual journey every time you're working on a
Uh,
project, or just art? Period.
I would say it's that entirely because I'm not a very patient person, even though it seems like from what you see back here that
Mm-hmm.
I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very impatient with most of everything, but this is the only thing that I have infinite patience for. Just because it takes a month to, on average, to make one. I mean, if it's not right, I'll take longer. I need it to be right, and I'm on a journey more or less because I'm still learning. Because each one of these are made differently in small, subtle ways that most people can't see. Because it's gravitated from like 10 moving parts to 20 moving parts. Now I think I'm up to 50 to 60 moving parts on each piece. And
Wow.
this includes the fingers, because your fingers have so many joints in them that move to make a fist or spread out. And I'm still trying to refine my process on making that, hands, and like now I can even make eyelids open and close when before I wasn't doing that. So I'm still learning, and that's what keeps me interested in the art, because if it was static and if there, I reached the end and I couldn't go any further, I probably would stop. But it's fascinating to me because I'm working on it. I guess it's kind of like when a person goes into a studio and is creating music, all of a sudden you do it long enough, and all of a sudden it'll just hit you. I call it being pulled out of the ether,
Mm.
because like I don't even know how I came up with it. Sometimes the ideas that I have, and it's just these things have compounded over the years, and ultimately it's what you see. That's what came from it.
Who what influenced you? And when you got into creating crafts with paper, what influenced you? Who influenced you? Was it something that you picked up? Was it somebody that you saw doing it prior, or And how did you just kind of give us a progression of like from then to where you are now?
Well, I didn't have a teacher. It was born out of more or less necessity. Uh, my father was an architect and my mother was a seamstress. So I would like to think that maybe when I was younger, before I could remember, I was kind of soaking up that knowledge of the creative process in different ways. But nobody taught me anything. Everything that I learned on my own through trial and error.
Trial and error.
Yeah.
So as I always say, I think the gifts and those genetics and the DNA is always lying within the person. I always say, when you watch a baby or when you watch certain people, how they just gravitate to things naturally. Like if you see a kid playing with electronics, more than likely they're going to be a tech head. If you see a kid out in the backyard playing with trucks and shovels, more than likely they'll be into machinery and construction. So you've always, I guess, had a creative mind.
Yeah, like I used to draw more when I was very young, but drawing is like two-dimensional and you can't play with a drawing as a kid. So me just being a kid and wanting to play with something, that's when I decided to get off into the three dimensions of paper. And there was, if anything, there was a lot of around. It was paper, at least at that point in my life, because I started off with notebook paper.
What are the three dimensions of paper?
Oh, just like 3D, as far as you being able to hold it, it having length, width, height, instead of it being on a flat piece of paper. If you have a flat piece of paper, you could just dance it around like this.
Yeah.
But as far as three dimensions, like you can actually, because at first there were no moving parts, there were
Mm-hmm.
just folding pieces of paper at each joint.
Mm-hmm.
But when as time went on, you keep folding paper enough, it'll tear. So I play with them to the point to where they start tearing, and that's when I came up with the sliding action of moving joints made out of paper.
That's awesome, man. So let's get into it, man. At what point did you know that you was going to take being an artist, a designer, and a creator seriously to where you want to eventually make it into a lifestyle?
I guess the feedback from the people I started showing, I would say about roughly 8 to 10 years ago, because it was a secret, because it wasn't exactly the most coolest thing growing up making stuff out of paper. People, kids can be cruel. you know they, they would say that I was making dolls, so that made me not really tell anybody it was my secret. But when I started showing people, I was amazed that they were amazed, more or less. And I would say that that gave me enough positive reinforcement, because I was tripping off the way people reacted to it, and I was like, well, this is something. And I also showed my father, because him being having an architectural background, uh, he was amazed, and he was like, and I was amazed. He was amazed, because it was like you draw buildings. I've seen his work. He's made three-dimensional models under glass that he had to take into the office, and he would say, "No, this is something like I can't do this." And I was like, well, I guess maybe we're on to something here.
So how actually old were you when you actually got into making moving parts for paper?
Moving parts, I would say about 10. From eight to
10.
t- yeah, from 8 to 10, it was folding paper, just at each joint, and hands couldn't move. There was no real good articulation and joint movement. It was basic, like I used to have put a rod across the chest, and more or
Hmm.
less like the arms couldn't move like this. They
Hmm.
had to move like this. And
Right.
then I eventually came up with the concept of individual sliding action joints for that. And that's just one example of how it, because each part more or less had evolved into more or less what I do now. And it's trial and error, and it's a test in patience. But when you're passionate, you're patient.
I heard that, man. So take us into the world of paper in motion. What is paper in motion? And what tell us a little bit about this brand.
Well, it's more or less. At first, I was thinking more of the dollars behind it, trying to sell my art, which I have.
Mhm.
But uh, I wanna, like, I have a YouTube channel. It's Paper in Motion,
Mm-hmm.
and I've decided to move it over to like showing my process and
Mm-hmm.
just teaching if I can, because it's one thing that I can say that it kept me out of a lot of trouble when I was young, because
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm in the house, I'm pretty much planted on the floor, just into my own world, and that was a very peaceful place to be at that point in time in my life. But the brand is more or less, I'd like to start a YouTube channel, create a following to where, like, and I always say that if anybody has any questions about what I do, if they want to start doing it, you can always feel free to ask. Because for a long time, I kind of hoarded it as my secret, because I felt like that, I didn't want to give away my secret, so everybody else was doing it. But eventually, I got to the point when I got older, it was like, okay, this is my legacy, and if I can influence somebody else to do it,
Mm-hmm.
because you're never bored. Like, I'm never bored. Like, doing this,
Mm-hmm.
I'm amazed at people that are bored because they twiddle their thumbs, and they decide to get into this and get into that, and all of a sudden, at the end of the day, what do you have to show for it? So at the end of the day, when I'm done, you can see what I have to show for it.
That's dope. And if you could, your mic is kind of when it rubs up against the shirt, it causes like a little staticky sound.
Okay.
So, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, if you kind of hold it off, man, because we want to get you in clear. Man, that's dope, man. So, what are the pros and cons, man, of making crafts and images out of paper?
The pros, like I said, is I'm never bored. It pushes my limits of creativity, because, and I understand that other people, that creative people, have different avenues to get there, but
Mm-hmm.
this is kind of what I really focus on. And the cons, well, there are other pros, but we'll if I think of some more, I'll tell you. But the cons are more or less just, I guess, people around you.
Mm.
Like, 'cause my girlfriend, she has been infinitely patient with me, and
Yes.
she understands. Because when I'm in the lab and I'm creating, it's more or less, don't bother me. And she wants her time, so I try to. The trick is trying to separate the time between her time and my time, and it can easily spill over into her time. But I'd say that that was the con, at least at this juncture in my life. At first, it was hanging out with my friends, because I used to run the streets. And
Back in St. Louis, Missouri.
hey, you know what it do, man. So like they'd come over and they'd, like, oh, well, we're going here. Like, come on. And I'm like, nah, no, I'm doing this. So eventually, it got to the point to where friends became distant, and they're still friends, but it's nowhere near the way it used to be. Because I used to tell them I'm on a quest,
Yes.
and I have to stay focused because I'm working on my legacy. Like, legacy is very important to me, more or less, because I don't want this to be for nothing. Even though I could die tomorrow and it still would, be mine, and I had a great time doing it. But I'd like this to carry on some kind of way.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. So let's dive a little deeper. And I know we when we talked off air, we talked about some things as far as about the culture, some of your experiences. And I just noticed just now you mentioned some of the cons are the people. Now let's talk about a reality that you live with. Experience as a biracial artist, and most of the time, and I guess in your form, you're just considered black. You want to speak on that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, being biracial spills over into my life, which affects the art. Because I was born in California and I came here when I was a kid when my parents got divorced. And I went from, not seeing any black people to, here I was, that's all that I was around, because my father came back here, and we were with his side of the family.
Mm-hmm.
So it really didn't, uh, I really didn't see, black people. So I didn't know that side of my culture. But once I came here, I gravitated to the culture, and I consider myself, which I am black, but I know being biracial, I do have another side, and that's my mother's side. She's a Japanese. She's from
Hmm.
Nagasaki.
Okay.
But when she married my father, they more or less disowned her, especially when she had kids. They really didn't like that. So I've actually never even seen that side of my
Wow.
family. So
How does
yeah,
that make you feel though? And how does that affect you? I know as a creator and an artist, man, you're using the mind. Do you how does something like that affect you when you're in creative mode? Are there times like when writers have writer block, they got to just shut it down and stop? Is there ever any time that you just kind of have to stop creating, or there's things that just come to your mind that just bother you? Because that right there, man, that could very well be a childhood trauma.
yeah, yeah. That happens. Like now, I really don't. I don't trip off of it. But when I was a kid, yeah, like because people like kids when they were growing up, there's been no one that I've ever met that says that they haven't met their mother's side of the family at
Mm,
all.
yeah.
So it feels like my history split.
Yes.
Because I have another history. Like when I did talk to my mother, like she would tell me stuff about them. Like her uncle was in a yakuza, which that was funny to me. But those are the examples. Yeah, like he was gangster. you know but
Right.
coming from a little Asian lady, it's hard to believe. But if I had saw it firsthand, which I could have, but the opportunity wasn't, put in front of me because of I guess the prejudice that they had.
Mm.
I never got to experience that.
Um. Now, with that being said, with not having ever met your mother's side of the family, have you created any characters? Have you had any projects that you dedicated, or you that kind of inspired you to create a particular piece?
No, it doesn't work that way. I uh
Mm-hmm.
I kind of been making I've been trying to branch off into different things, but I'm still kind of stuck on default. I've been making these, superheroes, transformers that can transform because it's what I saw on TV. And I
Mm-hmm.
was talking to my sister, and because she was the first person to see it because we used to be
Mm-hmm.
very, well, we're getting back close, but we used to be very close.
Right.
And she came up with something that I didn't really think about. She says I make superheroes because when I was a kid, I needed them to protect me. They were kind of like, I won't say voodoo dolls, but they were more or less just something to protect me because of the trauma that we both were going through. So
Wow.
I think that's been the best reason that I've heard, because I don't think about it, but she on the outside looking in, she kind of dropped me that nugget, and I was like, you know, that is weird because when I was a kid, I used to be I used to think they move around myself. That's the reason why I kind of made them, because I used to always say like I want them to move like I do. So just in case
Mm-hmm.
they started walking around, now, I'm a kid now, so I would say they could walk around because I used to think that I used to breathe life into them because I was that passionate about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you say I know you mentioned something about your sister. We had a talk about this. Um, your sister, your relationship with your sister, how does that affect your creativeness?
Well, like me and my sister were separated when I was 13 because we were raised like most siblings I guess are. She was 3 years older than me, so she watched after me, and we were very close. We People used to think we were twins because we kind of look alike,
Mm-hmm.
but there was a problem in the home. My father, well, she says my father started molesting her, so she left,
Wow.
and that kind of because I didn't make my art. Like I probably stopped about 2 years after she left, 2 3 years, yeah, after she left. So I don't know if that directly or indirectly affected me as far as making them, but I definitely did stop. I didn't pick it back up until I was in my 20s.
Now I noticed that you said you make a lot of superhero action figures and figurines, and I might even be saying figurines wrong. Um, And typically these are ones that we're familiar with through space movies, TV, whatever. Have you ever created a project or a piece dedicated to an actual real life person that affected you, whether it
Yeah,
be negative or positive?
yeah, that was a part of my growth because I just don't make superheroes. I have usually like with real like if somebody dies, like
Mm.
when Michael Jackson and Prince died, I made Prince and Michael Jackson. Uh, I made Motown 25 Michael Jackson with the glitter. Matter
I
of
was
fact,
getting ready to ask you about the glitter.
yeah, yeah. I made Smooth Criminal Michael Jackson. I made
Okay.
Thriller Michael Jackson. I made Prince, Purple Rain Prince, with the guitar and everything. And I also made Diamonds and Pearls Prince because I used to like him.
Okay. So
But yeah,
which art between those two did you like better?
uh, Michael Jackson, man.
Michael.
Now, now, there's no knock to Prince because
Uh-huh.
I would say that as far as not that Michael Jackson didn't have a good work ethic, because I love a good work ethic in somebody. Like
Yeah.
if I see a grinder, man, I got ultimate respect for that person because that shows me that they're committed and
Yeah.
fully committed, almost to the point to where it's psychotic, commitment. But
Yeah.
I would say that I admire Prince's work ethic. He doesn't have that vault of music that's never been heard before. To where I think he said that if you went 70 years or some outrageous number, you still wouldn't hear all the stuff he made. Like that,
Dang.
that is by far. And I know there's Michael Jackson songs that we probably haven't heard because who owns them. But
Yeah.
when I heard that, man, and he died. Like once somebody dies, it really gets and like it really affects me. So I create them out of tribute, more or less. Like when Kobe died, I made Kobe Bryant.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, but I gave it to my sister and her being her because we're polar opposites.
Okay.
She's more into the fast life and
Okay.
social, so she doesn't quite appreciate what I do as much as I do. So who knows where that Kobe Bryant is? I wish I didn't give it to her, but we were just starting to bond again late in
Yeah.
life because it'd been like 30 years that I
Oh,
really didn't even talk to her.
that's a
So
long time.
yeah, but we're making amends now. I talk to her, she talks to me. We talk to each other regularly, and like we actually picked up like we were when we were kids because we used to always talk to each other. That was my
Yeah.
best friend. So, but yeah, Kobe Bryant when he died, Bernie Mac, I made him when he died. Uh, and off the top of my head, I know there's more, but
Okay.
yeah, those were the ones that stand out as far as a non superhero.
Was
Uh,
it the 8 Kobe Bryant or was it 24?
it was a 24.
The 24. Okay, that's the
I,
lighter one.
I didn't like Kobe Bryant when he was 8 because me being younger, I think he was brash, and
Yeah.
I remember watching him play and he's putting up all these shots and during the Shaq Kobe feud, I was pro Shaq because Shaq to me was more dominant. Kobe wasn't established, so
Yeah.
once he made that transition to 24, you could tell his mindset kind of changed. Not that he didn't work
Hmm.
hard before, but you could tell, like, all right, that's when he became the Mamba.
Yeah.
Like, and I like the Mamba better than show off taking Brandy to prom, Kobe.
Man, you took us back. And you know what, man? You know what's crazy about that? Because I could recall most people in the basketball community did not like that Kobe. I mean, Kobe was seen as arrogant, cocky. He hadn't really earned the right to act that way. But now, man, fast forward to 2022, man, we miss that brother.
Oh,
And we miss his daughter.
so much. Like
Yeah.
Kobe, not to take anything away from his daughter, because miss her too, but Kobe could be an ambassador for the NBA to show these young cats,
Yeah.
because they like there's not a lot of respect because they think Michael Jordan's too old. They give him his props, but they don't
Yeah.
respect him because they didn't play with him. But
Right.
a lot of these players, at least the semi new ones, they play with Kobe.
Yeah.
So and the ones that that are new now, oh man,
Yeah.
they had Kobe posters that growing up.
Yeah.
So I think he could really relate to the new generation and teach them a better work ethic. about their craft. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
hearing Anthony Davis haven't even picked up a ball
Right.
since I'm like, dude, like that's like me not picking up, like that's like me winning an award for me creating my art, and I'm like, I'm gonna take 2 months off. No, no, this is what I do. Like I'm paying, and I don't even have to be paid for that. I do it for free. Because it's like
Yeah.
Michael Jordan clause, love of the game, man. Like I love what
Yeah.
I do. So there's no way, unless I'm physically not able to do it, that I'm gonna take a month off. Like it would kill me.
Mhm. It's a new generation, man. It's a new mindset, in today's athlete. So I've come to accept it, and I coach basketball, so it's quite different at times. It's challenging, but hey, I love the game so much. I love coaching. I'm always be around it. I'll just deal with the frustration.
Right.
So since we're talking about a lot of things that happened in the past, things dealing with the family, you know, uh, going into the next one, turning trauma into art.
Yeah.
Is that do you think that is your reality? Turning a lot of your trauma into art.
Well, if there was no trauma, there'd be no art. Like I'm a firm believer in that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm also a believer in pressure makes diamonds,
Mm.
and that's just a rule. Like there would be no diamonds if there was no pressure. If you didn't put pressure on coal, like
Yeah.
there would be no diamonds.
Yeah.
So I can also say that if I had grew up with getting every toy I wanted and in a stable home, I'd have been like every other kid, I think, because I wouldn't have, there would have been no need to do what I did and what I
Yeah.
do.
That's
Yeah.
that's that's serious, man. I have a cousin that always said, I highly like praise and worship the ground she walks on. She's so intelligent, so smart, like a sea of knowledge. And I would always ask her, I'm like, how did you get like this? And she would always say, I had a need that had to be met. And I
Yeah.
think trauma, man, produces some of the greatest minds, the greatest people, man, that we'll ever see in life. You understand what I'm saying? So I can dig it, man. I really could dig it. And I think we was talking earlier. A lot of times when you look at some of the best music that was made, it was made by artists who were traumatized and tormented.
Yeah.
Donnie
Yeah.
Hathaway, Marvin Gaye, just to name a few.
Oh, Donnie,
Phyllis Phyllis
Donnie.
Hyman.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah. So,
saying?
yeah, I was just watching a documentary on Donnie Hathaway, and
Yeah,
just because once you have your peers that are in the
yeah,
field that you're working in, for them to
mm,
tell you his work ethic, once again we're right back to work ethic, and
yeah,
his talent, because when work ethic meets talent, you get the Donny Hathaways, you get the Michael Jacksons, you get the Princes. I think it's just needed, because you can have
yeah,
talent and it only take you so far, and you can have work ethic, which is better than talent in my eyes. But when you have those two meet, oh, dude, yeah, that's what makes the icons of
yes.
the air industry. You know,
Yes, without a doubt, without a doubt. What would you say are some of your greatest accomplishments,
art wise,
art wise,
um,
or just period? Just
period.
period. This interview is about you, brother. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about art, but it's about you. Speak on it.
Okay, greatest accomplishments, I would say. I worked at a job for 20 years. I started with the company. I was the first employee, and I slowly watched me get pushed to the back burner.
Mm,
Like there wasn't, like I hit a ceiling as far as pay, and I got to the point to where they still appreciated my job, because
hmm.
I was exemplary in doing that. But there was no end game for it, so
Right.
I decided to get into the technology field, and I went to my computer career, which in hindsight, I don't know. I mean, I got what I needed to, which was the certifications. And when
Hmm.
I first started, I didn't like computers, but
Do do you integrate the use of a computer when you're designing a piece or a project?
no, that's cheating the art. I don't write anything down. Like kind of like Jay-Z, like the concept of it comes off the top of his head and he really doesn't write a lot of stuff down. That's the way I
Mm,
approach my art. Like I don't draw anything or I don't use any templates. That's one thing from my YouTube channel also that I preach. Because I see other artists out there like me. There's not a lot of them, but I see other artists and they use like a measuring system to
Mm-hmm.
do their art. I don't measure anything. Everything comes from the top of my head and feel, and I don't write
Wow.
anything down. It's
Like
just what you see is me more or less freestyling my art. It's like freestyling rap, I guess.
that kind of remind me like Malcolm X when Archer Western Indian told Malcolm X, don't never write the numbers down. Keep everything in your head.
That's right. That's right. I remember that movie. Yeah, I remember that.
That's one of my favorite movies as it is right there, man.
Oh man, I
So
watched that so many times.
me too. Signature. What's the signature of your work, and what separates you from the rest and other artists?
One, the fact that it's paper. Two, I noticed that there are some people on YouTube that draw a lot of their detail on
Mm-hmm.
their figures, especially with the face.
Yeah.
Like I see one guy, he specializes in anime, and he was already a great artist as far as drawing. So he's just
Mm-hmm.
applying that to his moving forms that he makes, and they look great.
They
But
do now.
you're kind of in my world, you're cheating the art because everything has to be sculpted and cut out. You know,
Yeah.
like like this right here, like I'm making the flash now.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I start with. And you set the eyes in there, and you don't draw anything. You just more or less layer over till you get the finished piece, and you connect it to the moving parts. Like same thing with the hands. Like because that's how they move.
Wow.
Sorry, like
And that's
that.
paper.
Yeah, all
Wow.
paper. Can't cheat
That's
the art.
Man, that's absolutely dope, man. That is absolutely dope. So, what would you say? What does the future hold for Black artists?
Well, I hope, I hope that it's a bright future. Uh, the future for me is just to try to promote my YouTube channel, monetize it, and try to make money off of what I'm passionate about instead of something that I'm not passionate about. And with Black artists, I hope the future holds a lot for us because I think that that can solve a lot of problems within our culture. Because to go to a job that you're not into and don't
Hmm.
like, I think it's a slow death. I
You
really,
ain't saying nothing, but you ain't saying nothing
yeah,
slick to a can of oil.
yeah. But if we find more avenues to make money, where we're passionate about, no matter what it is, because
Hmm.
there's a lot of there's a lot of different things, of course, that you can do to make money. But if you're
Yeah.
passionate about it, I think that it's a trickle down effect of happiness in
Yeah.
the home, in Black society. It just is. It's just that we're forced into a lot of areas that we don't want to be in, which creates tension, and that's
Hmm.
why the life expectancy for Black people are low or high. I mean, lower than white people. And it's. I think that it's entirely because of the stress that's involved.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, man. So, what can we expect from Paper in Motion?
Hopefully to gain more subscribers, which will help monetize me. And I don't want to be rich. Like it's not necessary. Like all I want to do is just make a comfortable living from creating my art. And as a matter of fact, that's just been me all the time. I've never been the type of person to wish to be rich.
Hmm.
Because uh, with that comes a lot of pride, and the fall is greater if you lose it.
Yeah.
So I'm a very modest man. Like I guess I'm arrogant about certain things because you kind of have to be. But
Right.
as a whole, I'm a very modest guy, and I don't want to be rich. I just want to put a roof over my head and do things every now and then, and food on my table, and just keep it moving. Because I don't. There's not really a need in my life to be rich.
Hmm. Check that out. So listen, man. It's been a long day, man. You know what I'm saying? I know it's been a long day for you as well too. I apologize about that little brain freeze up right there, man. But
That's
man, what else would you like for people to know about you?
that well, for one, I'd like them to know my YouTube channel, just
Okay.
Paper in Motion. Uh, like them to subscribe and helping artists out, because I get mixed feelings, I guess, mostly positive, about what I do because they react like you do, as far as amazed. And if so many
Hmm.
people are amazed, it should be able to be something other than what it is.
Yes.
And
Yes.
at the end of the day, not that that's a complete problem because I do it for free, but it'd be nice to get some kind of backing or just something to where
Well,
I can make make another revenue stream some kind of way.
most of the time, people that do things, that really don't care to make a dollar, man, they usually end up rich anyway. You
Yeah,
doing it from the heart, and like you were saying earlier about the job, man, you always want to turn your passion into a paycheck. And
yeah.
so they say. They say if you do something you love, man, you never work a day in your life, man.
And you said a mouthful.
So listen, man, I've enjoyed you. I think that what you got going on is amazing, man, and I'm gonna wish you the best of success. I'm also, man, want to extend you an invitation to come back on the show, man, again, man, and make multiple visits, man. Whenever you got something going on, a project, something. An announcement, you got something coming out with the brand. You always welcome on the Jihad Live Experience show, brother. And low key, man, you dropped a lot of wisdom tonight. I know we were talking about art and your product, but you dropped a lot of wisdom. Going back to what you said earlier in the interview, when you said that when you're creating, it's the closest thing to the creator. I've never heard an artist say that before, but I completely understand what you're saying, and that resonated with me. And just everything that you talked about, man, is just real wisdom. Matter of fact, before we get up out of here, if you don't mind me asking, what is your spiritual system? What are your spiritual beliefs?
Uh, I'm not a real big church person
Mm-hmm.
because I believe at the end of the day, God is in the heart. Like I always talk to God. I can't even remember even when I was a kid. And I didn't have to go to church to know that. I know that there's a creator, that I've been created by something. And I'm not. It's kind of wrong for people to place gender or whatever on it. It's
Ooh.
just a being, that created us, and we can't even see God the way with our eyes, so we can get some kind of vision to where that's the reason why I also don't make any religious things. Like I
Yeah.
never do that because I don't know what God looks like. So I don't do that. But
Yeah.
I believe that God is in the heart, and,
Hmm.
and as long as you practice it with your everyday life, treating people good, giving when you can, just ultimately being uh, not sympathetic but empathetic towards people,
Hmm.
uh, you're all good.
Yes, no doubt.
Because definitely the church is mm, like I'm not saying all, but yeah, it's been a blessing and a curse. It just
Yes.
depends on what generation you're in.
Yes, man, without a doubt, man. Hey, we probably, man. You know what? I'm gonna have to have you come back on, man, on the show, man. But we're gonna be. I'm gonna have you come back on some other subject matters, man, just to get your take on it, man. I like the way that you think. I like the way that your mind operates, man. Very positive energy. And man, let me say this, man. Let me thank you, man, because a lot of times when I have guests come on the show, I'll give them a time frame to do this and do that and the third. Man, you are the first prompt guest I've had. And I thank you for that. That's taking care of business, man. I really appreciate you for that, man.
Well, it's something that I do naturally. It wasn't always that way, mind you. I did used to be. I was known for being late, but as I got older, I realized that when I'm told to be there, if I'm able to be there, I need to be there because I'm not the only person counting on it. Like I
Hmm.
knew you were counting on it. I know your viewers, would be counting on it. And like I said before, because we spoke on this, I'd rather be proactive than reactive in any situation. So
Yes.
as far as yeah, I'd like to come back, because I find myself, fellow Scorpios, which we are.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, we're deep thinkers. So, I,
Yes.
yeah, I find myself thinking about things more and talking in my mind about certain issues that bother me. And in this day and age, yeah, we need to chop it up because
Yes.
I don't know if we can solve the problems, but at least we can kind of let those feelings out and chop it up and talk about it to kind of like therapy, I guess. So because that's what I would consider it because this day and age, and I don't want to sound like old man, because that's what I sound like, but
Sound like wisdom.
this generation, something's very very wrong, and if you had told me 20 years ago that a lot of stuff's going on, I mean a lot of stuff that's going on now, I wouldn't have believed you.
Yeah.
I would not have believed you if you jumped into a time machine right now, went back to 20 years ago and said that, or just a lot of stuff. I don't want to get into particulars,
Hmm.
but just a few, just stuff about what's going on now. I would not believe you. I would say that that's a mad world you live in. Like how did it? It would change my outlook on a young me. I know that at least so I can, expect what's coming because I had no idea that it was going to be this way. And
Yeah.
it's the younger generation, like they're entitled, and
Oh,
and it destroys work ethic, which
yeah.
you know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Again, it's a Scorpio mindset. I understand, man. We're very serious about our work and representing ourselves on a very elite level, man. And we're perfectionists, So I'm with you all the way. But most definitely, man, I have a lot of panels, man, to talk about serious discussions. And I promise you, you can mark my words, you will be on the next panel, man. We have to have your wisdom. We have to have that mindset. And we have to have that intelligence, man, that energy, man, just flowing abroad on the panel, man.
Oh, it's my pleasure that you're having me, or will
Man, always, man. Consider yourself always a guest on this show. you know. So, with that being said, first of all, let me extend an apology to my guests and the viewers tonight for my slight moment of disengagement. It's been a long work day, but that's not even an excuse. So, first of all, I ask that you pardon me for that. Second of all, man, whenever you come on this show, man, whoever supports the show, I'm forever grateful. The guests, I always try to have on great guests that people can learn from, people can be inspired from, as brother Toshi tonight. You should have gotten a jewel, some type of wisdom. I've had a lot of people on this show, but I must say this brother has really touched me, and he's dropped some jewels, especially when he said when he's creating, he's close to the creator. Again, that really resonated with me. I've never really heard nobody even put it like that. But again, I always tell you, man, if you can't tell me, don't tell me what you know if you can't show me the reality. I love you and I value you. And as I always tell you, man, from city to city, state to state, worldwide, you're listening to In the Zone Atlanta. This is the network that powers the Jihad Live experience. Until next time, you all be safe, be at peace, and Allah you Akbar.